So, in the way that metadata, which outside the world of, I guess, IT is more frequently known as you contextualize it. So, stuff that's presented on your site as NPR branded, it's from you. We all expect your normal high qualities of excellence, and that's absolutely going to continue. And if, for example, you were to discover out in the long tail, let's say, a piece that was particularly good, really great, and you want to promote it, then you'll promote it on your site as user contributed, but we stand behind this, we think it's really good quality. All that's fine, but the really interesting. So that addresses sort of, you know the long tail concept from Chris Anderson and actually originally from Clay Shirky? Okay, so that addresses what you find in the short head of the long tail. There's some great stuff that's as good as what you're producing, or maybe almost. The interesting and difficult and challenging and exciting part is what's going on in the long tail, where most of the long tail, as Sturgeon's law is 90% of everything is crap, is that what it is? Yeah. Most of it, is not going to be up to your standards by definition. It has its own virtues. So what do you do about that? And what you do basically, I think the short answer to this is you want to engage as much as possible with your listeners who will be producing stuff that's not as good as you, but you service it and you provide the contextualized metadata that says, okay, no, this is like a letter to the editor, and it's been moderated, so we expect 1 degree. Your users are not idiots. We'll figure it out. We know what a letter to the editor is, so we know it's been moderated. We expect some degree of quality, but not NPR professional quality. And this over here is an open discussion. When Slate does it, they call it the fray, which is pretty crucial metadata that lets you know that they're not standing behind every jerk who writes a little comment on it. But then they also have some other mechanisms at Slate that have emerged, like editors who go through and pick out from the fray and say, these are the interesting pieces. So in that case, we know as readers, Slate stands behind this a little bit, but they're not saying we think this is great writing or a great point of view. They're saying this is of particular interest. And one more thing is that because you don't have the time to be the editors of all this stuff, you also then engage the techniques that have been emerging, and you can innovate here too, that enable the group, your listeners, to figure out for themselves, to make recommendations to each other, to review and to rate and to tag and to link and to form. This is what the history of the web is. It's the history of innovation about how we're figuring out how to make sense of it. If you take from an earlier conversation, Ewan's phrase. That's what we're doing. It's the whole story of the web. So you contextualize. You have the trust in your readers that they will understand the difference between a letter to the editor, a report directly from one of your people, and a crazy-ass comment written by a crazy person from New Jersey.
There are 2 of those here. Watch out, yo.
And we will figure it out, especially if you allow us to have mechanisms by which we can recommend to each other and build trust among each other. That requires trusting your listeners, though.